sä promoat niinku approachia, mutta myöskin kurssia?
Joo, siis se pointti on, mä myös pitchaan. Siis mulla on
Onko sulla joku solutioni vai?
Joo, siis tää kurssi on akatemialainen. Meillä on 30 000 yliopistoa, josta vain 6 000 on design, niin ei se puutu 24 000, jolta ei ole.
Joo.
Ja mä pitchaan tämmösen Design for Academia. Se on mun pitchaus, mutta siis...
Okei.
Se ei lue mulla slideissa, mutta se on periaatteessa, eli mä kutsun yliopistoja mukaan.
Okei.
Siinä ei liiku rahaa.
Joo. Call for action.
Joo.
For uni. Sä mainitsit sä tämän 30 000 ja 24 000 ja 6 000.
Jos mä muistan, mä merkkaan itselleni nyt ylös.
Joo.
Mulla on vielä paperikäsikirjoitus.
Okei. Vai pitäisikö mun sanoa se tässä?
No mä voin sanoa,
Joo, no mä voin, jos et sä sanonut, niin sitten mä tuun tähän jutteleen sun kanssa, niin puhutaan siitä. Niin. Joo. En tiedä saako tässä maailmassa enää kätellä, mutta mä oon desinfioinut puoli tuntia sitten. Enkä ole koskenut sen jälkeen kuin omaa autorattiin. Tuo Fuzzy Frontendi vai?
Ei vaan
Tää siis podcastit, joo.
Brandin luonnos.
Joo. Abraham, are you, what are you exactly? Do you have a solution or idea or a product or?
Yeah, so our pitch is more like some kind of idea that we have been thinking about in itself. Yeah. So it's like a podcast. Okay. So the idea is that we'll be pitching something about why podcast is good for businesses, and in the meantime,
So it's kind of an early stage ideation.
yeah, it's just that.
Yeah.
Do we think it's a good idea? Feedback from the audience.
Todella vakavasti itsekin. Ne on helppoja. Nyt pääsit just niin kuin minäkin esimerkiksi kotoa tulen alle 15 minuuttia tänne, niin mitä mä teen? Kuuntelen podcastia. Mitä muuta en
Mä oon aika selektiivinen ihminen. En seuraa mitään
siis pelkästään. Mä opin niistä.
Yeah, sure.
Pillarilleikkiä. Puhasta
If I can
oppia.
translate you, then
Mä keskityn teknisiin, niin enemmänkin se, että sä voisit lukea kirjan, mutta siellä kaksi pyrofiksua ihmistä keskustelee aiheesta. Täällä on 4 tapaa tehdä asiaa. Mikä näistä 4 on oikeasti se hyvä? Miksi sitä kannattaa käyttää? Mä pääsin siihen, että mä säästän niinku 50 sivua manuaalia, että menee 3 muuta skippaa pois, kun mä tarvitse koskaan käyttää. Tällä tavalla syventävää. Plus sit niinku markkinointia. Muutamat heput, jotka käyttää podcastia, niin älytön määrä markkinointia.
Sanokaa vaan sitten, kun hypätään. Nyt jääty. Onko nyt mikrofonit kunnossa?
Joo.
Okay, hello. Joyful Friday for everybody here present and online. My name is Juha Saukkonen, researcher here at the StartupLab with my own topic of dynamic knowledge management in technology SMEs with Professor Abrahamson, and I'll be the kind of a speaker of the day, introducing the topics and the speakers of the day, and then also kind of moderating the discussions. Just a reminder, Open Pitch Friday takes place first Friday of each and every month. So next time we will be online and live here at JYU premises at Agora, 3rd of April. So please be there and join. And we have today 2 speakers, 2 topics. Oh, sorry, more than 2 speakers, but 2 topics. And as Italians would say, this is all fatto, tutto fatto in casa. So The speakers are coming from within the Startup Lab, but basically everybody who is interested in Startup Lab is inside. So we only have internal people in this world. So I have the joy to first present to you research assistants from Startup Lab, Polina Feshenko and Abram Hossain, of a very interesting topic. We live an era of renaissance of audio, and part of that renaissance are podcasts. And I've already discussed with some people here in the local audience, we have the consumers of podcasts in here, and maybe future presenters in podcasts. But what can podcasts do for branding? What are the business applications? We will hear more. So please, Abram, Polina, feel free. We are all yours for the next X minutes that you need.
Yes. Thank you. Here.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Today we're gonna talk about podcasts for business, and not only for business actually, but that will be part like how any business can actually use them and why that might be beneficial for getting with your customers and getting visibility. So as you all probably already know, right now more and more people, like actually more than ever before, people listen to podcasts and enjoy listening to them. So that's why we decided to choose this topic also and promote it a little bit for our lab as well. And some statistics that Americans, for example, 90 million Americans listen to podcasts every month, and that actually true not only for America but also like every part of the world. That at least everyone has ever listened to podcasts, most of the people. So now we're going to talk about more like why podcasts are actually good, what are exactly their benefits, and why any company can like apply them as a part of their marketing. So first of all, they're very convenient for both those who make them. You just need a microphone, speakers, and PC also, and they're extremely easy to listen to because you don't need to sit and watch the video. For example, you can just plug in your headphones or just put it on the speaker, and it will be like passive education for you. Another thing is that they're really engaging, and in this huge pool of information that we live now, they actually give you possibility to learn about a specific topic and get like really find great information, so you don't need to search for it yourself. You don't need to go to different platforms, websites. You just get it in like 1 hour and in a kind of informal tone of voice, and the whole setting is usually informal. And in terms of businesses, it is really nice that the company can actually provide some internal information, like also in a very detailed way, like in a form of interview, for example. So you can actually learn more how the operations are going within a company, and you kind of might feel that the person is talking to you, so that establishes more personalized connection from the company side. But also here we want to point out like why we want to apply podcasts for our startup lab, because it is within university and there are many research projects going on that would be actually good to talk about, and so that other people, like anyone basically, can listen and know more about specific technologies or like any interesting research discoveries, for example. So that's something that we are planning to implement here in the Startup Lab, and also that would be good for us as a business in a way that we can get some traction, visibility, and get more projects going on and more partners. So last but not least, podcasts, as was already mentioned, they can get more traction for businesses, more visibility, more customers, and because they can be shared and discussed like between people who listen to them, they can generate word of mouth. So that kind of brings people into organizations and spreads the information and knowledge. But right now we want to actually present a bit more general statistics about podcasts, like why people listen, where they do that, and what are like numbers. So Abrar will tell you more about that.
Okay, thank you, Polina. So I think Polina in general told like why podcast could be interesting because it's easy to make, and of course it brings some values for the company. But you might be wondering, okay, I understand, but what's the consumption pattern of podcasts? Like when do people actually listen to podcasts in general? So my question to all of you, how many of you listen to podcasts in general? Please raise your hands. Okay, so there's a pretty good number there. And can I please ask one of you, like, when do you usually listen to podcasts? No, maybe.
When I walk to school or run.
Okay.
On the journey.
Okay, and how about you?
Almost the same.
Almost the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's some kind of like passive consumption, right? Like you don't actually plan, okay, fine, right now I'll listen to podcasts and do nothing else. So that's the actually statistics in the world right now. So people at home listen, but I mean, it's hard to define what people are doing at home. They're doing some kind of work and at the same time listening, but the other patterns are like when they're doing something and on top of that, they're listening to this podcast. So what it actually says is that people, although people are doing different things, they are super busy in this digitalized world, we have so many distractions, but people care about self-improvement. And podcast is hugely educational, so people are striving for educational content, which they're willing to multitask while doing some other things. So there's a potentiality in this regard, in the consumers' end, that they want to learn, they want to consume some more content and educate themselves.
Yeah, and actually it has been also kind of like researched fact that people who listen to podcasts are actually sort of more educated. So if you're listening to podcasts, that's kind of tells about you.
Yeah.
A good thing.
So, and what kind of podcasts are people actually consuming? So entertainment is 57%, and it just goes like this up to 33%. So when we're talking about podcasts in general for StartupLab, so we're thinking about where do we actually fit in this category? So we do actually fit in category of the science and technology. Here we have different research projects regarding different emerging technologies, and also discussions and talk shows. So we do fit in these kind of two categories, which is quite popular in terms of like this soft podcast landscape. So are there demand for podcasts? So if you look, there are 600 million blogs and 23 million YouTube channels. So there are contents out there, but only this amount of podcasts out there. And that means if you just reverse engineer all these contents into podcasts, is audio format content, there's a huge content gap out there in terms of like visual contents and this auditory contents. So there are huge possibilities. So as you can see the numbers here, so there are quite a lot of unexplored space which can be tapped into. For us, it is science and technology and something else, but for you, for businesses, there are different sectors they can dive into. So now that we know about podcasts and their consumption patterns, so what are the podcast formats? If you just look at the podcast formats, it's mostly interview based, or someone is teaching something, like exploring some topic by himself or something. Then there's group discussion, which is my favorite. I will talk about this. Okay, now I can say about that one. My favorite podcast is After Hours. It's by the Harvard Business Review. They have these 3 professors every day discussing on 3 topics. So it's really nice to see these highly educated persons, like they are exploring different topics. It's just a mutual conversation going on and having fun. So this is a pretty good format. And then there is news recap, and there is scripted fiction and non-fiction as well. So when you talk about podcasts for our startup lab, we can actually think about this group discussion as like there are different researchers working here. It could be interesting to how different researchers actually look into different topics. And of course it can be interview based as well, when we interview company professionals and give out this knowledge out into the world. Sorry, I'm a bit over time, but let's just finish this as fast as possible. So, question might arise that we have podcasts, and who is going to listen? Well, an average podcast actually gets 100 listeners in general. So, if you get only 100, then you're already pretty good. But given that we are in university and we have students here, so we already have good initial listeners. If you can actually promote within the university, then it can actually stack up later on. So it has a good, what should I say, first strategy to get the first 100 ones. And once we have the podcast, where do we publish? We can actually list our podcast into Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and then we have most of the listeners over there. And now that we have the podcast, how can we market this? Of course, these are different ways. I will not actually go in detail about this, you can read it. But the idea here is that the research that we create, the research that we do here in the lab, it is a one-way communication. We do the research, we publish, and there is no interaction in the end. But in corporate communication, there is a thing called creating a dialogue with the organization. And I think podcast is a way to create this dialogue with the audience and the research work that we are doing, so that there is a communication with the audience and who is actually consuming this knowledge. That knowledge is being created in the lab. So it can be a step towards the future in this digitalized and the audio-savvy world of the future. With this, I'd like to conclude, and in the end, I have a few questions to you. If we start any kind of podcast from here, what would be the right format in your opinion? Should it be interview-based? Should it be discussion-based? And what kind of topics would you like to know? Or do you think is it even a good idea to begin?
Yeah, not only about StartupLab, but in general, from university point of view,
Yes.
like what would you be interested to listen to?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please stay there. Okay, so now it's kind of a open, hopefully two-way communication. So there were some very clear questions coming from the presenters to you. What would you like to see coming as a podcast from StartupLab? But maybe if I start with some kind of since we are a startup lab,
Yes.
we do research, and we want to do research, and we want to turn research into money.
Yes.
I'm a simple man from central Finland,
Yes.
and I'm a business school teacher, so where is the money in here? Could you repeat it? What is the kind of a value offering?
Yes, we were thinking about this, like the value offering is like to create an authority out there. Like we do a lot of collaboration with the companies.
Yeah,
We seek for funding for different projects.
yeah,
So I think it kind of, the rule has changed because of digitalization.
yeah.
I think when, like these days, if you're on the web, if you have a
Yeah.
website, then you're authentic, then
Yeah.
you exist. So
Okay.
at some time, this, what should I say, to create some kind of authority on certain kind of field, like the startup education field, it could be an interesting way
Yeah.
to really create that kind of authority to the coming generations, and of course.
Yeah, I will tell in the very end the kind of an idea that came to my mind about
Yes.
this podcast and what can be done for business in that. But the audience, do you have any comments, questions to the presenting team before we answer their questions? So
From a business perspective, if I can answer,
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of branding establishing on the web, because I'm a little bit disappointed with your point that I don't think that if you have a website, you exist on the web, because there are many websites where there is no visitor and there is no interest from the company to have traffic on
Yeah.
the website.
Yeah.
So I think that having a podcast strategy is a way to make a bridge
Mhm.
yeah,
from different channels to your business.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of direct marketing, if you can use some kind of
Yeah.
field
Yeah.
in that to the marketing itself. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of trying to make bridges from more where there is more traffic,
Mhm.
like Spotify, like
Yes.
Apple Podcasts.
so you see it more as a kind of a new and modern tool to attract traffic
Yeah, it's sort of
to get engagement of your potential customers or existing customers or collaborators to contribute to you, and you can contribute to their lives.
Yeah,
So extension to marketing, kind of.
somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your point of view. I'd like to clarify one point here. Is that
it's just
yeah, I understand. When I said like if you don't have a website, you don't exist. It's a thought these days. Like if you think about, let's go to that restaurant. Someone suggested you some restaurant, and what's the first thing you do? You search it on the web, and if you find that website you feel like it's a pretty good place to go. If you don't find it there, you think it's not even probably real. So I'm just saying, like from that perspective, to be relevant in future, in that perspective. Yeah.
Okay, good. Reija, you had also a question. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Reija Häkkinen from Career
Yes.
Services. I'm career specialist and I'm actually responsible of entrepreneurship related stuff within the university.
Yes.
So I just came actually from a meeting where we were thinking this new thing called entrepreneurship barometer, which we are going to have here in university. So I think this relates nicely to that idea. So what you said about like sort of, if I understood correct, to make student ideas visible through this or something like that.
Yes.
Yes, I would be really interested, but I would go within your point because you said that about the commercial value of this. I have no idea, but there would be visibility value for the universities really
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
But from the
yeah.
commercial side, it's more like that. Basically, even like company representative, they also listen to podcasts.
Yes.
So that would be maybe easy for us to actually showcase what we have already done,
Definitely.
what kind of projects we've been working
Yeah,
on.
and that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you could make your sort of maybe research more available
Yeah.
for the corporations or
Yeah.
yeah. So, but let's be in touch.
Yes. Once we have the once we have the listeners, and of course, I mean, then there are of course monetization possibilities within podcast itself,
Yes.
and that's a later discussion probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other questions, comments from the audience? Are we having any kind of questions coming online from somebody? One thing that came to my mind, Pasi, maybe you said we have here in the front row. We have a stubborn entrepreneur, Pasi Mankinen, who also told just before we went online that Pasi is an eager listener of podcasts. So, Pasi, what your ideas as a heavy user,
Yeah.
but also an ICT professional then?
What about feedback channel? So people listen to and they want to react. So I know many podcasts are using Twitter or something like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Because if it's like without feedback, it feels like radio. You listen to radio and you forget it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when you get feedback, you get much more like emotional connection.
Yes.
So I think you should be prepared to have a feedback channel.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
And the idea I got from listening to you that yes, you want to make a podcast about yourselves, but
No,
are you
not
part?
really.
Yeah, I'm provocating, but don't get provoked. So, are you planning to do some research on how it goes? Are you creating knowledge about podcasts, and not only making a podcast?
I mean, everything that we do within the StartupLab ends up in a research project. Of course, if it goes on, it will be converted into a research project, like
But
how it turns out.
I have to mention that first of all, we are digital marketers, so we do care about marketing data. And if we
Yeah.
launch podcasts as a
Yeah.
marketing tool, then
Just-
of course we're gonna look at the
Yeah.
stats. And actually, feedback also goes into that direction. That we collect the feedback, we see how we do some changes, then we see how the audience
Yeah.
reacts. So that's how we grow.
As he was
basically.
mentioning, as Pasi was mentioning, there's some podcasts that actually has Facebook groups where actually the listeners
Yeah.
actually get into that group and they actually have the discussion after each podcast episode. So that's also a nice way to generate what's people's thought on that particular podcast each week. Yes.
Yeah. Because referring to what you said about just like we go 25 years back in time, having a website was some great thing. Now it's not anymore. You must have a good website.
Yes.
For the time being, having a podcast tells you are somehow alive, but there are also bad podcasts out there.
Of course. Yes.
So just like what has happened to company visuals, websites, people have created tools to create better websites, company visuals, and so on. So maybe your research could yield
Yes.
knowledge that could be used to make a tool that helps people to make better podcasts, and now I'm starting to see the green color of dollars somewhere. Okay, so I really hope that whatever you do, you research and you think, could that knowledge be turned now into a solution, a platform, a tool that other people could use? But of course, you will use it first. Right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you for the presenters,
Yes.
and thanks for the audience for the comments and questions.
Thank you, everyone.
One question. How much does it cost for you to create podcast for me?
For you,
Yeah.
I think it depends on like how many people will be involved in the podcast. So, just as I mentioned, so just a laptop and a free software and just a microphone. And that microphone probably audio technical costs like 65 euros or something. That's the equipment cost, and yes.
Yeah, but I mean, just to create content, create a show, thinking about what are we going to talk about, and make some kind of script and
Yes.
talk about that 20 minutes, 30 minutes,
Yes.
1 hour. So maybe once a month or
Yes.
2 times a month. That could be nice.
Yes.
So it should be podcast that goes on and on and on.
Yes.
So it means that most of the time is to create the content.
Yes.
But if we, for example, launch it like here in the Startup Lab, we can have it ongoing all the time, and we can have different topics. So one can be dedicated, for example, to your company, and we will be interviewing you like once a month and deciding on the content. And then we will have also other podcasts like related to research or even like related to specific research like blockchain or AI,
Yeah.
and then different
I
tracks.
like the idea a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
We'll develop it more then.
Okay, as an old racing horse, I was so happy to hear people started talking about productization, servitization, sales, buying, creation. So we are into business. Our next speaker for today is doctoral researcher Juhani Risku with deep and wide for early stage innovation. So Juhani, feel free to share your ideas with us.
Hello, so let's start with our course, which is starts next week. So we held this fuzzy front-end design course already 2 years ago. It was held in English, and last year we had a mixture of languages, Finnish and English, and this time, after 1 week, we are going to have it only in Finnish. We try all those different things, but in the end, I'm going to have a call for languages for this course. Think about that if you were a designer, what would you do? You would certainly create something very special for people and for life. So to create beautiful things and even cities or shoes, anything, that's the normal work, everyday work for a designer. And they have several different tools and mindsets to fulfill those needs and quality issues when designing any product or service. But mainly you are not a designer as a professional, but you are a designer. Think about what you are designing all the time. Those people here, how many things they already have designed before they are passing over the street. So they have been planning probably where they are going. They have designed the next dinner. They have ideated several things for the night time, and maybe that they also have visualized some ideas on paper or in their mind. So you are a designer, and you manage quite well without any special studies, and that's quite nice. But if you had some studies of design, you probably would manage much better. So this our funny front end design, just turn 90 degrees, the Z's to N's. So fuzzy front end design means that it's the early stage of design. It's the funniest part, because after fuzzy front end, you begin to work as a robot or tractor with the pixels and the small things. And usually it takes, so that the fuzzy part of the design takes, let's say, some hours or days or a weekend or get together occasion with a team. But then later on it might take even years to fulfill a system so that it's up and running. Like during my times at Nokia, so it took about 18 months to get an idea to platform, to the mobile phone platform. So we got it to 3 months, but still it's 3 months from the idea to platform, and it's quite a long time. So we try to have a holistic view to design, and it means that it's not only design. Design is quite a fuzzy term. You can include anything to design. So here you have a small chart that design could be by the same time engineering, it could be planning, concepting or ideation. And then if you think about what are you using when you are ideating or engineering. So you are building, managing, sketching, structuring, you have calculations with computer, but also mental calculation. It means that you just think in your mind what it should be. So this is something what we are going to go through during the course. And surprisingly, there are several professions so that the persons are really designers all the time. And they are also executors in a way that they are mainly like engineers. I know quite well choreographers. My daughter is a choreographer. She's a dancer and a planner. It means that planning all the production, so she has to collect the money, but also dance and train the people. An engineer, it's quite easy to understand that they are designers, but a cook and a chef is also a designer. They really have to design the dinners and the food from all the small details to the big picture. Even farmers, potters, craftswomen and craftsmen, industrial designers, they're easy to understand that those are so-called real designers. But some of them have just in small pieces some design issues during the education. Okay, what we have to go through during the course is that one of our main tools is the notebook. The notebook is the usual thing what a designer has. They draw and sketch things all the time in their book, and then they later on can for example iterate and then go further with the plans so that they can have a product or service or a system to be constructed. So the sketchbook is very important, but you need also to know about several things like harmony, what is symmetry, what is golden section, what is scale, size, proportion, quantity. They are totally different things. And what could be motion in real life, or how you visualize motion. And there are structures, this very special structure like the Tour Eiffel. And then texture is the structure of the surface. And then there are several other things from mathematics. You learn what means takete and malumba. One of the most important things that you need to learn in design, but also you can use it in your everyday life. It means that takete, they are onomatopoetic words. Takete means really strong or some things like rectangular or sharp edges, and malumba is quite roundish. So every piece of art, system, product and service needs to have takete and malumba there to have some kind of a tension in the usability, for example. And then there is beauty in numbers. Nobody made any games during the time when we had a keyboard on the mobile phone. And there, look at this, what happens when you calculate with the numbers. This is magic, really. And even this, the last one here, so that you get 9999 like that. So it's very special things. We are not using those because we don't know and understand, for example, mathematics. And then if you want to really know something, or you want to understand things, so mapping things is very important. So they're so easy to read, you immediately understand where you are, where you have to go, and then that's therefore, for example, all the GPS maps in cars are very useful because it's easy to use them, and you are on the map, how to say, you know where you are going. We learn also evaluate what is a good product, for example. So everybody has their own good products and ideas of those, and certain definitions what is good. And that's very important to have some kind of a interview to quality and design in that way. And then, and then there are several special things like what is complexity. So this is an artist called Escher who made very special drawings. And if you look at them, so they are very, how to say, bent or complex in their inner structure, but it is also very difficult to draw it. You need first to have some kind of overview of it, then begin to have structure to that, and then later on calculate in your mind how to draw it so that it looks what you wanted. What we are drawing, we try to draw and sketch and give form during the course. So I want, as an example, separate two different things in drawing. Usually people don't like to draw. There are two different, how to say, levels in drawing. It's structural and lookalike. And the same person here has done their both. So this is a structure a system which is now here patented later on, some 100 years there in between. And the same guy also, Leonardo, draws lookalikes. From this, when you can draw structural drawings, it takes only 5 or 10 years you can have lookalikes. But what is 10 or 5 years? Nothing. So that's really possible for everybody. And when you want to have scalability in your drawing skills, so of course you can have the same person drawn in different forms. So this is quite easy, basically. You study and learn some of them, and then you can scale it, and there you are. You have many things done. Usability is from this faculty, very important thing. So it's very important to understand what is a use case and what is the task flow inside the use case. Like taking money from the wall. I'm walking to there and take my purse, and then I put my car there, and so it goes, the task flow. So this is important. And then this is an example how to understand what kind of clothes you have. So this is unfortunately finished, but the point is that you could have a certain kind of matrix that you have it for certain uses, certain context and certain seasons as a mixture and a setup how you can design clothes. So this should be, of course, made later on in other languages. You begin to be some kind of a perfectionist in some stage when you are designing, and then the professions differ from each other. And this is a funny thing that this is something what we wanted, the children wanted, but those are the different things what the professionals from different areas did. So we need to separate our how to say intentions from the things what the customer wants. And then we have design leaders. Usually those are Finnish design leaders, Alvar Aalto, Eeli Saarinen, Tapio Virkala. They are not, how to say, they don't have this one pony trick. They have 1,000 pony tricks or even horse tricks. It means that they have done nearly anything, even cities. So that's very important for a designer. A designer is not only a drawer or one how to say, trick person. And that's very important to understand when you therefore it's easy to understand also those separate schools, which are professional design schools. And then we come to beautiful things that have been structured, like everybody knows the Leonardo's Vitruvian Man, but there are several others also. So those are things that I would say that it could be a very good topic during the course that everybody designs their own Vitruvian Man or something. which is the human being, like we always have the human in the center. So what is your understand? How do you understand the human being in your design context? So it would be very important. So then this course is, as I said, it's available in English. So and might be that we have a summer course for it. And le cours est possible aussi en français. Nous cherchons université en France, Suisse, Belgique pour contribuer notre Kurs. Der Kurs ist auch auf Deutsch und wir suchen für Universitäten aus Deutschland, der Schweiz und Belgien. Kursen förstås på svenska och när det är på svenska så får vi förstås all Skandinavien med oss. Ja nyt kurssi on suomeksi. So, I hope that we get universities from different countries to join our Fuzzy Front-End course concept. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Juhani. Please, audience, any questions, comments on what you just heard, or ideas that this sparked in your own minds that you would have to offer to Juhani as a joint co-production that we are always looking for? Any comments, questions before I take mine? Okay, so Juhani, first of all, thanks for telling me I'm a designer. I did not know that when waking up today, and I didn't know what type of people I would meet today, and now I noticed I have met at least 50 designers today because you said everybody is one. So before the presentation you said there on the cafeteria that, what were the numbers again? There are 30,000 universities in, was it in Europe?
No, 30,000 universities approximately globally. And a very special thing is that we have about from 6,000 to 10,000 universities with some design issues built in the curricula. So now, why do we leave the design, beautiful design, especially this fuzzy front-end design, to only 6,000 or 10,000 universities? Let's be there as designers. So
you say that 2/3 of the universities in this world do not touch design at all.
Well,
or they do not know they are touching.
Yes, definitely. They don't have courses of design and different kinds of designs. And if we think that where did the modern design come from? So there is now going very good German television program Bauhaus. Bauhaus was a school in Germany from 1919, and the modern design was built there. It was they found all the possible things, like to be a ceramist and a painter, an architect, an industrial designer, a choreographer, and a costume designer, and everybody had to study those first 2 years, and later on they could focus on one. Yeah. And this would be a very nice idea to have at least 2 courses at the University of Design.
Okay, let's assume all the universities in the world in 5 years' time have taken your view and they have adopted design into their DNA. They have courses. How is the world a better place then? What gets better done?
Yeah, so usually it's a lottery to access design schools. So now we have better possibilities to access design without lottery, because there are, as you can see from the environment, we don't have that good designers at all.
And when more and more people across disciplines are exposed to design, does it mean we will have better products, less wasted energy and money in product development processes and so on? What is where is the money part? It's
the design scales to anything. So it means that you do it in your head and on paper first, and then you can scale it. You can estimate that is it valid to build it at all, or is it better to have not a product but a service? Okay. And these are things what are also handled during the design courses.
Okay, just out of my own curiosity, because I'm studying myself knowledge management in technology SMEs, and I mean the life cycle of every piece of knowledge you have is going down. So you have to design over and over again. I've got the feeling that the technology businesses are all the time in a bit fuzzy situation. So do you have tools that help companies at different stages of development?
Yes, basically we have the normal flow. For example, service design theories have very good flows for nearly anything. Take money from the wall and like that. But also we are supporting waterfall idea, because there has to be an end design. This is a result from a waterfall. We end the product after iterations to a real product, and later on we can iterate and have a new model.
Okay. So you said this is a call for action. You want universities to join and enjoy JYU approach. So what are you exactly offering? You have a ready-made course contents, structure, support.
Yes, this is
so you have the full package.
We have a full package of this course, and it would be very nice to have visitors from different universities to come and join to how to say, adopt this course or even make it better. So then we would have this kind of global network of design courses at the academia, in a holistic academia.
So you are looking, kind of putting it to layman's terms, you are looking for customers, but you are also looking for collaborators and how do you say, what is the consumer production type of so contributors to your community.
Yeah, that's true. So it starts from small, but we have had this already several years. And of course, when we get guidance from design schools, so then we can change even the education.
Do I guess right that you are not only doing this, but you are also researching what you do? So I guess there is some proof of the method.
Yeah,
or building up.
That's also we are doing by the same time.
Okay.
The research part.
And Juhani Risku, JYU, was the person who knows more of this than anybody else in this building and many other buildings in the world. And thanks for a very inspiring talk. And I guess you will discuss with people here once the official broadcast is over. So thanks again for Juhani and everybody who came today. And let's be fuzzy, but with some tools that help us with the fuzziness also in the future. Thank you.